Yuba-Sutter.LIVE's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Three, the board provides this oral summary of salary and fringe benefits for the executive position of superintendent to be filled by Mr. Jordan Reeves. The three-year term of this agreement shall commence on July 1st, 2025, and shall remain in full force through June 30th, 2028. The annual salary to be paid monthly installments and prorated for any part month is $286,659, less all statutory and other deductions. The agreement also provides for monthly travel allowance of $250 for business travel required within Yuba County and the same health and welfare benefits as other district certified senior management employees. Also, the following certificated administrative changes will take effect on July 1, 2025 for the 25-26 school year. Mr. Joe Saylor, Principal, Marysville High School. Naomi Mimi Arroya Megana, Principal at Lyndhurst High School. And Monica Vanderstoop, Assistant Principal, Linda Elementary. Comments from board members. Mr. Stephen Fuhr. Chong Yang. Oliver Taylor. Seth Steeman. Mr. Frank Crawford. Okay. We'll move on to opportunity for employee organizations to address the board. Marysville Unified Teachers Association, Angela Stiegel. Welcome, Angela.
Good evening. Just a couple of quick things on behalf of MUTA. Angela Stiegel, President for Marysville Unified Teachers. One, we do hope that people are in fact enjoying their summer vacation. I know there's a lot of planning and such that is going on still, but also just a reminder that we have a lot of our teachers, our MUTA folks, who are participating in conferences and additional work over the summer. And so just a shout out to those people who are continuing to work all the way through their summer vacation, as we normally do. Summer vacation is a misnomer in regards to educators. But also, I know that we may have folks reaching out in regards to reimbursement questions on that. And so for things like meals of travel, so just kind of an FYI towards Jen and her office. They may be getting some questions as those things come cycling through. And so if there's anything MUTA can do to assist with getting that information out to folks, the district, Jennifer, Cindy, whoever, could just let me know. That way I can help relay info and try to help out as much as possible. But also, one thing that I did forget to ask about before the meeting started, and so asking now, but with 14.1, our good old legal fee schedule, I don't see an attachment on 14.1, so at some point in time, if MUTA can get the schedule of legal fees, and of course, there'll be the ever popular question about, are we just going to have Kingsley Bogard now, or are we still going to have Kingsley Bogard plus the other handy-dandy legal firm that has a name as long as my arm? So are we down to one legal firm, or we still have two? And I know that we've had two for a while, and Kingsley Bogard has been used for some very specific things, but if we can just get that schedule at some point in time, someone can just email it to me or whatever, that would be awesome. But other than that, we look forward also to getting negotiations started because, as you may or may not hear in the very near future, on the 30th, that is the last day of MUTA's contract with the district. And so after that, we will be working on an expired contract yet again with the school district. So hopefully we'll get negotiations started right about the time school starts, and we could get those wrapped up pretty quickly. Keep in mind that there is a COLA out there and that you do have folks that just got absolutely slammed with about a 10% increase in health and benefits. So hopefully we can manage to get through negotiations and get something that is absolutely fair and equitable for our teachers, especially given some of the other situations going on currently. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Operating Engineers Local Union Number 3, Ruta Nelson.
Good evening, Board, Trustees, Superintendent, and Cabinet. My name's Ruta Nelson. I'm an OE3 Stewart. I also work in the IT department. We're trying to make sense of some things, hoping to get some answers. We have 2 requests. The first request is to table agenda item 18.4. We are having a hard time understanding why this new position is being created in the SPED department when an OE3 classified 4-hour employee was laid off in the very same department. During this fiscal year, knowing that layoffs were on the horizon, and the district was in a deficit, a former administrator was contracted to work in the SPED department 2 days a week. That same administrator is coming back for the 25-26 school year. I tried to find this contract. I say contract. I don't know if it was a contract. I looked in the board meetings, agendas. I can't find anything, but she's working there 2 days a week. Also, a third SPED coordinator, salary ranging from $89,000 to $154,000, was hired starting July 1st, with the position vacant the majority of the year. Now to see this new position being created with the starting salary at $86,000 and topping out at $149,000 is very concerning to us. We don't mean to disrespect the employees that work in these positions or the department, and we aren't saying that these positions aren't needed. We would just like to discuss and understand why in less than a year, 3 management positions have been filled in that department, and yet a 4-hour OE3 employee was cut. This is just one of many questions we have, which leads to my second request. We ask for a study session, a deep dive into the budget, which includes all of our bargaining units. There are differences between the second interim 3 months ago and the budget before you today, in particular in the multi-year projections. There are totals that don't make sense, and we would just like to sit down and voice those concerns with you, the board, the district, and the bargaining units. We hope you take in our considerations. We would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruta. California School Employees Association, number 2, 326 and 648. Association of Management and Confidential Employees. Supervisory Unit. Okay, this time we'll move into number 7, public comment. Persons wishing to address the board under public comment or specific agenda items prior to the board taking action must complete a public comments card and place it in the basket. Excuse me. Speakers will be invited to the podium in the order the public comments cards were received. The public may address topics not on the agenda during this section of the agenda or ask that they be heard during a specific agenda item. Comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker or 20 minutes total time for public input on each item per board bylaw 9323. Ralph Brown Act prevents the board of trustees from responding to these comments with the exception of clarifying questions. The California Government Code section 54954.2 Point A states that no action or discussion shall be undertaken on any item not appearing on the posted agenda, except that members of legislative body or staff may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed by persons exercising their public testimony rights under Section 54954.3. We will now hear public comments from, I only have a first name, Erica. Oh, Schlesinger. Okay.
I leave the last name off because usually people can't pronounce it. So even the family can't. It's Schlussler on one side and Schlussler on the other. I just married in, so I just go with what my husband says. Sorry, I'm Erica Schlussler. I'm a kindergarten teacher over at Edgewater School. I'm the vice president for MUTA, and I'm looking at what's happening here and thinking, I have to speak up. I just have to. I was having a great day, but I just had to come in. Because some of you, quite a few of you are new since you didn't have the pleasure of working with fall. But fall was the beginning of our district's fall, literal fall. As soon as she came in, she pushed out anybody who was competent and who was able to leave by retiring or by actually getting pushed out and suing the district and winning because of how she did that. So since then, she then went to hiring people who would just say, yeah, sure, we'll spend all that money. And we have this trend now of hiring people who aren't capable of the job. And you have people in this district like me who's been here for over decades, and we know our history and we know some of the people, and we can't believe what's happening. Now, I'm somebody that just, you know, a lot of people have said, you're gonna say that? You're gonna tell them that? I'm like, yeah, it's the truth, because I'm blunt. So here we go. The replacements that fall brought in then also left, and it turned into this mad scramble. I don't know if you remember Rocco, but man, that poor guy was made to do every job under this roof until his hair was falling out and he left and became a principal over in Yuba City. But more recently, here's what I saw. Personnel, we hired an assistant superintendent of personnel, and he wasn't really able to do that job. So we got an executive director of personnel. And she's quite overwhelmed because she's a wonderful person. I love you, Ashley. But being assistant superintendent wasn't going to cut it. So I'm pretty sure this is what happened then. When Mr. Reeves went up to superintendent, and he can't do that on his own either, so he has to get a deputy superintendent. I think what happened was Ashley must have not, like, you're not leaving this with me. I can't do all of the personnel.
Turn her mic on.
Okay, thank you. So, hey, I know a guy, Gabe used to be here, he's being superintendent someplace else, so let's contact him and see if he'll come do that personnel thing again. And he was probably like, oh yeah, sure, this is total, like, in my imagination. But, yeah, so yeah, we'll come, yeah, I'll come over there, but I'm not coming there for what I was getting paid before, you gotta pay me more. Okay, yeah, we'll make you deputy superintendent. And what I really want to know is what are the job differences, descriptions that make the need for an executive director of personnel, a deputy superintendent who's going to do the job of the personnel person, the superintendent job versus the deputy superintendent job. Why do we have to have so many people to do what we've always had as 2 jobs? And districts that have 10,000 students don't have deputy superintendents in addition to all these other positions. San Francisco has a deputy superintendent. You guys have, this board, not necessarily you individuals, have spent so much money doing what Fall said. We should have learned from that. And right now, your jobs are to ask these questions to make sure that you're not just buying incompetence. We need very, very competent people. The process you went through to get a superintendent was whack. Oh yeah, we're gonna have stakeholders be a part of it, did not happen. I mean, we had some stakeholders meet and talk, but they didn't get to rank, they didn't get to have any kind of actual input. There were people left out of the process because the Sutter County superintendent didn't like them. So you guys never got to talk to them. This is a mess. And we're going into another year where we're supposed to be, oh, kumbaya, let's build our relationships back. I can talk to you after this meeting if you'd like, but I don't even want to say in public the things I think about your new assistant superintendent of ed services. That man, no, just say no. And if you have any questions or you'd like to talk to me, my phone number is 530-301-0306. Anybody out there in the public is also allowed to call me. Everybody has my number. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Next, we have Angela Stiegel. Is that going? Okay. Ruda Nelson. Passed. Okay. Do we have any public comments from the audience? No? Okay.
I could say more.
I think you've said enough. Thank you. Number 8, superintendent updates. Jordan Rees.
I do. I want to follow up on what Angela said. So for our after-school programs right now, essentially what we're doing for summer school with our ELOP, not only do we have an average daily attendance of 560 students, we have 75 credentialed teachers working at 4 sites, Kynoch, Cedar Lane, Browns Valley, as well as Ella. Support staff, which includes paras, custodial, nutritional services, well over 100. It's a 4-week program, and that's not counting what the extended school year for our special ed students, as well as credit recovery for both high schools. So to Angela's point, we have a lot of people in our district that are working through this summer, and we certainly appreciate their efforts and everything that they're doing, and we've got a very successful summer program going on right now. That's it.
Great, thank you. Moving on to superintendent, 12.1, approval of the June 10th, 2025 regular board meeting minutes. Are there any noted corrections by any of our members? If not, do I have a motion to approve? A motion from Oliver Taylor. Do I have a second? Mr. Frank Crawford. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 12.2, approval of consent agenda items. We will now have approve of the consent agenda items 12.1 through 17.3. Is there any item that the board would like to pull for further clarification?
I just want to get a clarification on the public comment that the comment on 14.1, that the rate sheet wasn't included. But I think if I understood it correctly, the rate sheet was not included, but online the rate sheet was included. So I just want to clarify whether that was correct or not. I pull the board agenda electronically online, so I was able to pull it. I just want to clarify that. But I pull it through the credentialed side, not the public side. So if there's a disconnect, I want to address that. Unless if I misunderstood.
14.1, no attachment.
Okay, so there is an attachment on the credential side. If you sign in officially, there is an attachment.
We don't get to do that.
No, I understand. That my concern is that if on the public side, it's
We'll have to reach out to board docs on that because they control all of that. So we'll have to reach out and see if they've got an issue going on.
okay. Yeah, if we can address that, because I do see it on on my side. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I tried pulling up on my phone and I don't. So there's obviously some issue going on there. So
The
we'll
public
reach
side
out.
has problems, but the
Yeah, so we'll have to reach out to them.
side
Yeah.
does not. Okay. Yeah, so can we address that so that the public sees the same documents that we see?
So are you proposing we pull 14.1?
I think the request was to pull it until they can see it, right? Is that the request? Or,
At this point, I don't have an issue as far as you're going to approve it next time anyway, so pulling it seems kind of pointless. My only issue is I would like to have the reach.
yeah, I agree. And then if there's a problem with our system, we need to address the system. And when you noted it, I was a little bit surprised because I see it in when I go in there and look at it, but I don't use the public side. So if the public side has issues, we should address it.
Can we provide that to Ms. Stiegel after the board meeting? Would that be all right? Okay. All right, then are we okay with 14.1 then?
Yeah, well, I'm okay with it. We don't have to pull it. Just want to make sure that's available to everybody.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda items 12.1 through 17.3. I have one from Mr. Frank Crawford. Do I have a second? Okay. Yang, second. All in favor? All right. Any opposed? Motion carries. Jumping down to number 17, new business educational services. Approve and adopt the 2025-26 Local Control and Accountability Plan, LCAP, and the LCFF budget overview for parents' annual update for the Marysville Joint Unified School District. Lori Guy.
Improvement. And annually, districts develop a local accountability plan, and the LCAP provides the goals, actions, expenditures to support identified student outcomes and overall performance. MJC leaders met with various educational partners, labor unions throughout the district, and Yuba County office staff for the development of the 25-26 LCAP. The LCAP is being presented for approval after the public hearing held on June 10th of 2025, and during the same meeting that the approval of the budget. Are there any questions?
Does the board members have any questions for Lori Guy? If we don't have any questions, do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Frank Crawford, and a second. Mr. Seth Steeman. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. (17.2) Approve and adopt the Marysville Charter Academy for the Arts, MCAA 2025-26 Local Control and Accountability Plan, and the LCAP and the LCFF budget overview for parents. Presenting is Mr. Eric Preston. Mr. Preston, you have the floor.
Hi, Lori just very eloquently explained the process, and Marysville Charter Academy for the Arts is the only school and district that has to do this as well. And so ours was presented last time. Our information is on the school website, and I don't really have anything else to present for that. I will be presenting our local performance indicators in a little bit, but I'm open for any questions you may have or not have.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Preston? Okay. With that in mind, can I get a motion to approve? Seth Steeman. And a second? Chung Yang. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. (17.3) Approve the federal addendum for the 2025-26 school year. Presenting Lori Guy.
Thank you. The federal addendum was completed and submitted to the California Department of Education in 2019 as required under ESSA. Each year, the California Department of Education requires that the federal addendum be reviewed to ensure that federal title funding is aligned with the district's local control and accountability plan. I request at this time that the board approve the federal addendum for the 25-26 school year.
Does the board have any questions for Lori? If not, then do I have a motion to approve? Okay, Stephen Fuhrer. There's a motion and a second from Oliver Taylor. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. This next item is informational only, no action. 17.4, present the Marysville Joint Unified School District the local performance indicators self-reflection for the 2025-26 school year. Lori Guy.
Okay. Good evening. Each year, MJSD is required to measure the progress of specific local control funding formula LCFF priorities. This evaluation is reported to the California Department of Education as part of the California dashboard. The data in this presentation, with the exception of one item, reflects 2023-24, but is reported on the data dashboard in 2025-26. LCFF Priority 1 reviews teacher curriculum and facility data. The teacher data is from 2022-23 school year. The 23-24 has not been released yet from CDE, so that will be presented to you at another time. This is the most current data provided by CDE. The following slide will further detail definitions of teacher credentials. For students accessing their copies of the curriculum, all students had access to the curriculum. For facilities meeting good repair standard, 21 sites did not meet good repair but met the FAIR standard. That is done by an outside agency where good would be 90%, a score of 90%. And that they rate things such as cleanliness, signage, water fountains, making sure that they work. This gives some further information on teacher credentialing. A clear assignment means the teachers who are fully authorized. Out-of-field teachers have the correct permits to teach. Interns are teachers with intern credentials. Ineffective are teachers who have a limited permit to teach. Incomplete are teachers who have missing information about their credentials or permits on census day in October. Unknown means that there's insufficient information reported on census day. LCFF Priority 2 monitors the implementation of state academic standards. Providing professional learning for teachers and state standards, MJSD has met full implementation for ELA, ELD, science, and history social studies. We're in the initial implementation phase for mathematics, which aligns with implementing the new mathematics framework. And this is based on a self-study done within our district. Slide 8, in terms of implementing Policies, programs for staff to improve delivering instruction to standards. MJUSD is at full implementation for all subjects. In terms of implementing academic standards for non-core subjects, MJUSD is at full implementation for CTE, PE, and visual and performing arts. We're at the initial implementation for health and world language. And recently, we adopted a new world language curriculum, which will support moving MJUSD beyond the initial implementation. Success at engaging activities with teachers and administrators. We're at the initial implementation for identifying professional learning needs as a whole staff, professional learning needs of individual teachers, and support for teachers on standards not yet mastered. For priority 3, parent involvement and family engagement. Building relationships between school staff and families. We are at full implementation for creating a welcoming environment and developing multiple opportunities for two-way communication. We're at the initial implementation stage for building trust and respectful relationships with families and learning about family strengths and cultures. Building relationships for student outcomes. MJUSD is in full implementation in terms of teachers and parents meeting and working together to support student outcomes and supporting families to understand their legal rights and advocating for their students. We are at the initial implementation stage in terms of professional learning to support schools' capacity to partner with families and providing families with resources to support learning at home. Seeking input for decision-making, MJUSD is at full implementation for building capacity to effectively support staff and families with advisory groups and seeking input from underrepresented groups in the school community. We are at the initial implementation phase of families and staff working together to plan and design family engagement activities. School climate. Priority 6 requires the district to survey students on school climate at the elementary, middle, and high school level. The questions were based on a 4-point scale, with 1 being low and 4 being high. This chart shows the average score reported by each grade span. Access to a broad course of study. This priority looks at what is offered to high school students when reviewing the enrollment of A through G, AP, dual CTE, and the Seal of Biliteracy. Students have access to a variety of opportunities. However, not all subgroups are represented equally in these courses. In particular, are English language learners. Are there any questions?
Does the board have any questions for Ms. Guy?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guy. Now we're going to present the Marysville Charter Academy of the Arts, MCAA, Local Performance Indicators, Self-Reflection for the 2025-26 school year. This is an informational only, no action required. Mr. Preston again, you have the floor.
All right, hello again. This is going to look very similar. Ours is just slightly different. For priority 1, again, remember the teacher data is from 22-23, so it shows at that point that we had 74.6% of our teachers with a clear credential, 19.1 were considered ineffective, and 5.6 we had incomplete, or percent we had incomplete information on. We had 0 students without access to instructional materials, and our facility did not meet the good repair standard. I just told you that. Priority 2, we are at full implementation and sustainability for everything but next generation science standards. Our situation is a little different, I think, than the district's, in that the district provides for all of its schools. We get to take advantage of that, but then we get to do some stuff on our own as well. And so some of our scores are going to appear self-reflective higher than the district's because we are much smaller and we're able to supplement quite a bit that other sites might not get. The area you'll notice that doesn't have as much or showed as full implementation is our science. This last year we had 2 interns in science out of a 3-person science department, and then our 3rd person was on administrative leave for half the year. So our science standards have gone, I don't want to say they've gone down, but we're working on bringing them back up, if that makes sense. You'll see instructional materials aligned to academic standards in all core classrooms. Every one of them hits. Implementing policies and programs for staff to improve delivering instruction to standards. Again, same narrative that I just gave on the other 2. Science is somewhere that we need to focus. For implementing academic standards. For CTE, I feel like we're still in initial implementation. All of our CTE courses are visual and performing arts based, and so they're not like your standard CTE classes like ag or culinary or something like that. Ours are all performing arts based, and so we're really trying to run that balance of performing arts along with the career side and help our teachers understand providing the entire battery, so to speak. We're at full implementation in health, although with the shift in science teachers, again, I mentioned we had to replace 2 this last year and they were replaced with interns. Health had been taught prior by a science teacher, and so there was a whole bunch of re-education or education having to happen with our current health teacher. Everything else is on full implementation and sustainability. Our success at engaging activities with teachers and administrators, we feel like identifying the professional learning needs of individual teachers is at full implementation, but we're not at the sustainability stage yet. And providing support for teachers on the standards they have not yet mastered, I think we're in that same level. When we move on to parental involvement and family engagement, I think this one's harder. Full implementation and sustainability when you're talking about communications with family and the public is different because that changes a lot more than does the relationships with staff. That stays a lot more constant, so to speak. And so I feel like here, full implementation is good. We'd love to get to full implementation and sustainability, and we're working on that. But I think we're at full implementation, but we're not quite there. And you'll see that the same for building relationships for student outcomes. It's exactly the same narrative again. I think though, sorry, if I go back to the 3rd one here, the LEA's progress in supporting staff to learn about each family's strengths, cultures, languages, and goals for their children, and tie that with the LEA's progress in providing families with information and resources. I'm in talks right now with a parent who is active in our community, who is bilingual, who represents the Latinx community and is willing to come in and work with both our students and our parents on trying to get them more involved in school and figuring out how to tap into some of our CTE courses, our AP classes, our opportunities, and try to make that, because looking at the data when we had to evaluate all of the data for this self-evaluation, one of the things that came up is our English learners and our LTELs were lower in that area. And so we definitely need to put some attention there. Seeking input for decision-making, again, we rely on the district for a lot of stuff, but we are our own little island for other things. And we are at full implementation, except it's really hard to get to full implementation and sustainability with the changing demographic, I think. And so our goal is to get there, but we are nearly there. School climate. For the 23-24 school year, we used the Co-Vitality Spring School Climate Report Survey instead of using the Healthy Kids Survey, because in the past we had a hard time getting the data disaggregated for our site. It was all combined with the district, and so it made no sense to us. So we contracted with Co-Vitality, and in 23-24, we had 298 of our 367 students complete the survey, and it showed us that we had 8 groups of students. 12.42% were high thriving, 28.86 were moderate thriving, 22.15 were getting by, and then you look down, their lower percentages, thankfully, is how they should be at the bottom. but it's a little concerning that there's that many that feel they're languishing, vulnerable, at moderate risk, highest risk, or inconsistent. LCFF priority 7, going back to that, sorry, that's one of the reasons in our next year's LCAP and using the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant monies that we have elected to hire a part-time social worker or a half-time social worker is to help students make those connections for SEL and to kind of get their heads right. So that will be a good answer to that, I believe. Access to a broad course of study. We reviewed ARIES data, A through G enrollment and pass rates, AP course enrollment and completion, the CCI indicator, dual enrollment, SELA by literacy completion. And we have some great opportunities for students. Just like Lori said for the district, access is available, but a lot of the identified subgroups are not as well represented in those, and so we need to continue to push those. We have increased offerings in our CTE pathways and in AP, although we're eliminating an AP position or class right now because we don't have staff to teach it, but we are looking at bringing more. And that is the presentation. Are there any questions? Yes.
I do have a question. It's actually partially for Lori as well. In your slide where you look at the implementation for the curriculums for mathematics, it's noted that it's next Common Core state standard for mathematics, and it's fully implemented. And in the general district one, it was still in the initial start of implementation. I just want to make sure I have an apples to apples comparison. So for the general district one, is that also under the Common Core state standards for mathematics as well?
I think that's probably because we're going into an adoption year. And so I was
correct. That's what I thought that we were, from my understanding from January, it was because we're going to go into an adoption year. So,
but this is evaluating what's in the past or the past year. And so for last year, I feel like we were full implementation and sustainability. It will shift once we go to a new curriculum. Okay. It will, like next year, if we pick for the year after, that year it'll be initial implementation.
Okay, so is that what is represented on the general district's slide then?
Correct. Well, part of the reason is because we're going to be going through the new adoption. There's that feeling out there that, you know, we don't have math and our math scores need to improve. So the 2023 was when the new math framework came out, and so we are working on getting that information out there to the teachers and using it as a foundation for our before we get into adoption. So I think it reflects that we have not had a lot of math training in the recent years because we've been waiting for the new adoption.
Okay, and so for MCAA next year it would be a sort of initial implementation. Then.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Sorry.
Yeah, I had a question on number 6, if we could go there, please.
Priority 6?
Yep. There we go. I was curious how those are measured, the percentages there, the high thriving through inconsistent, and just to clarify, are the students placing themselves in these categories? Okay, and how are they measured?
Yes and no. Let me back up. There is there's a survey that the students take, and then based on how they answer, there's so many questions per strand, I guess, or these 8 groups, and if they answer so many within each one, it automatically ranks them. I can forward to the board the report that I took this from, so you can see it. Yeah, okay, I will do that.
I got a follow-up question on Seth's question. I know you said that the historical survey was the Healthy Kids. So that's standardized across the state of California. So the scores could be compared to other areas in the state of California. Is the Covidity survey, is that standardized across other areas, other schools?
Yes, however, not as broad. And so it's a program that came out of, I'm going to mess it up, I think it's UC Santa Barbara. And it is, they launched it 2 years ago. And so we got in on the second year. And then they underwent, we didn't use them this year because they underwent an ownership change. So we did go back and use Healthy Kids this year, but I'm negotiating with them to get them back because we lost this year.
So would I be then able to go to Covite's website and look at the baseline data? to
Should
compare?
be able to. And I can look, I can get in there and poke around and see if I can find that as well when I send the other information to the board.
And does the survey as robust as the Healthy Kids, where it talks about safety, it talks about
It's pretty robust. It's a little bit different because it's not looking at the exact same areas, but it's looking at very similar areas.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other
Any other
questions?
questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President. Before we move on, in regards to our consent agenda, I'm going to need to call a vote for the board members to make an amendment correction to the agenda, specifically item 9.2. That's the approval of agenda items 12.1 to 17.3, and we would be amending and correcting that from 12.1 to 14.3, and item 14.1, moving the attachment from admin content to public content. Do I have a motion to approve?
Could you repeat it? Which item are we removing? I didn't catch the number.
All right. The amendment, we need to do amendment correction to the agenda, specifically referring to item 9.2, it's our consent agenda, from items 12.1 to 17.3 should be 12.1 to 14.3. And then a notation correction amendment, item 14.1, moving that attachment that you brought up from the admin content to public content.
Correct.
Yeah,
So pull 14.1, so it can be,
yeah. Pull 14.1. Yeah. A motion from Seth Steeman and a second.
A second.
And second from Chong Yang. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to number 18, new business personnel, 18.1. 18.1, approve the job description position, Deputy Superintendent of Personnel Services, Ashley Vetty.
Good evening. The purpose of this agenda item is to request the board approve the job description and position for the Deputy Superintendent of Personnel Services.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Vetty? Do I have a motion to approve? Motion from Seth Steinman and a second? Frank Crawford. Okay. All in favor? All right. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving to 18.2, approval of the employee contract, Deputy Superintendent of Personnel Service. Again, Ashley Vetty.
Right, and this is the contract for the Deputy Superintendent of Personnel Services. So we're asking the board consider the proposed economic terms and vote on whether to approve the proposed contract for our recommended candidate.
Any questions for the board? I need a motion to approve. Mr. Frank Crawford. And a second. Oliver Taylor. All in favor? All right. Any opposed? Motion carries.
President Criddle, I would like to ask if we could bring Mr. Gabe Simon to the podium.
Yes, sir.
Introduce our candidate.
How are you, Mr. Simon?
Doing great. Thank you. Is it working?
It is working.
I'm really loud, so you never know. Thanks for having me, and thanks for your trust in my leadership. I'm really pleased to return to the Marysville Joint Unified School District in this capacity. Although it's a different job title, much of the work is similar, and I'm excited about leading that department with the support of staff, the community, the trustees, and the superintendent. I have all the confidence in the world that we're going to continue to make MJUSD a great place to be for kids.
Thank you, Mr. Simon and Dr. Simon. We appreciate you showing up and coming. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for welcoming me, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
18.3.
Okay, moving on to 18.3, approval of employee contract, Superintendent Ashley Vetty.
It is recommended on this that the board approve the employee contract for our superintendent, and the board should consider the proposed economic terms and vote on whether or not to approve for the recommended candidate.
So do I have a motion to approve employee contract for the superintendent? Motion from Mr. Seth Steinman, and a second. Okay, Chong Yang on a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 18.4, approve the job description and position of program specialist. Ashley Vetty.
This agenda item is a new job description, and the purpose is to request the board approve the job description of a program specialist in our special education department. And just a little more background on that. So this is really in thinking ahead. We're trying to prepare as our special education department is expanding, and as we're bringing additional students in that have been in county-run programs, our department is growing. And so that's the purpose of the addition of a program specialist.
Okay, we have a public comment from Marita Nielsen.
Yeah, I wanted to reserve this time to follow up. And as Ashley Vetty said, if the department is growing and students are coming in and there's a need for employees and this position is in need of being approved, then I'd like to reiterate that OE3 would like this position to be tabled because we don't understand why our OE3 employee was laid off. So we ask that you table it, and we hope to look at the budget and get a better understanding of what's going on and why this happened.
Just following up what essentially Ashley said to the board, anticipated needs, our special ed numbers are growing. It's a proactive job description. It's not one necessarily that we're looking to hire anytime soon, but it's one that we envision essentially will need as our numbers continue to grow with our special ed programs.
Board members have any questions?
Yeah, so would this be a position that would typically be filled by an OE3 employee?
No, this is a certificated position, and it would be under the AMACE unit. And yeah.
But if our special ed numbers don't rise, we're just paying someone to sit, huh?
Paying someone to sit?
Well, you know how I talk, yeah.
No, I know what you mean, but do you mean if in this position, if we were to fill it?
Yeah, we're probably paying them a lot of money.
So like Mr. Reeves said, if we don't have the attendance, the numbers to support it, we wouldn't hire for it. Our department going into next year, the special education department, we're feeling like it's really healthy right now. We've added some positions in the right places. It looks good. If we continue to grow, then we would not maybe need to. So this is in looking ahead. And the position that Ms. Nelson was talking about was an OE3 position. This is not taking the place of an OE3 position. It is a different position, different qualifications. But essentially anybody could apply for it who is qualified.
I do have a question in regards to the budget source. Typically, when we have a job description and posting, there's a line item that says budget source and where it comes from. Specifically, 18.4 is missing it. So if we look at, for example, 18.3, the superintendent, the fund comes out of general fund. When we look at 18.4, there is no funding source. So Am I assuming that this position is not going to be filled then because there's no funding source for this position?
I think the funding source on this would be determined as we were going to fill it, but as of right now, it would be the general fund.
So then how does that, so I'm going to entertain OE3's point. Then if the impact is on the general fund and it's because we're $3 million in a hole and we had to do this workforce reduction, right? How does it make any sense that we're adding another position into the general fund then?
So the job of a program specialist is essentially probably the lowest level of administrator that you can have acting in capacity as like a designee for the director. So as we get more students in and we have more IEPs and there's a growing need in the district, this person would be able to, they would be able to act as admin designee and sit in on IEPs. They would be able to manage programs. They would be assisting in the development and the coordination of the delivery of services as an administrator. So when we're talking about an OE3 position that was eliminated in the department, it was a 4-hour clerical position. So that position and this position, it's apples and oranges.
Okay. So I'm going to clarify my understanding a little bit then. I have an assumption that as enrollment goes up, right, we're going to get more ADA because we're going to have more SPED students coming in. Part of that is going to generate the revenue to cover this position. Do we as a district know what is the threshold before that trigger of hiring this individual is? What is that threshold?
So in dollars, I don't know. So you're asking how many students?
I'm talking about students, right? Because
how many students it would take to cover the cost of this position?
I'm entertaining OE3's request, right, to table this, right? What is the negative impact if we table this? Which is if we know what the floor of the number of students that we have, we know what the impact is, right? We can project. Are we going to need this position in 6 months, 1 year, or 2 weeks?
Well, and this is why we were wanting a deep dive into the budget, because there are differences and that we want answers to, and we're not getting them. And Ashley said that this position was at the bottom of the certificated management. They're starting at 3. So if they were at the bottom, they'd be at 1. But they're starting them at 3, and that ranges from $86,000 and tops out at $149,000. So we're talking about a 4-hour employee. I mean, you could probably do some quick math on that. It's way less than that. And there's been three new positions. Well, not new, 3 filled positions in SPED. I'm not saying the work's not there. It's very clear it's a growing program. But it makes no sense that they laid off a 4-hour employee. If anything, you would think they'd make her an 8-hour with the growth and the money. So I just ask that we just table this for now and we discuss it, all of us, and let's figure it out.
I think the glaring question, and just to clarify, to piggyback on Dr. Yang, is how do we know when we've hit the point that we need to fill this position? Based on enrollment, how do we know when it's time?
Jordan, you want me to? This position, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is in anticipation of the program transfer from Yuba County, bringing back the mod severe students, or bringing the mod severe students to our district. That means more IEPs and more administration that's going to be needed to help assist with those students, because we will be bringing in, I think it's around 200, I don't know the number right off the top of my head, students into the district with extensive needs. So this person would help with that. That's in anticipation if we do the program transfer.
And when are we scheduled to have the program transfer?
There's no timelines.
No
It has to be negotiated. There's a lot of work we essentially need to do.
So looking at the factors that impacts tabling this means that if we table this for 1 meeting, there's no impact then.
The only thing I would say from a personnel standpoint is if we do table it and the county is unable to, and as we're hiring special education teachers and we can start to build our population at MJUSD and take back students, even though there is no timeline, if we're hiring special education teachers, we can continue to grow. If we table it and we don't have the position and we're not able to hire, and then we have to wait a month for the next board meeting, and we do need it, then we don't have it. That would be the risk.
But that doesn't make any sense because Jennifer said that this position is anticipation of us taking over the county.
It's true. This is preparatory for sure, and we're looking ahead at our numbers growing.
So because there's no timeline, there got to be no impact. I'm in a circular loop here.
There's got to be what?
Yeah, if there's no timeline, we can't define the impact.
Which is why we would like to take some time to think this through and talk it over with all of us. Let's figure it out. We have questions just like you do, and we're not getting answers.
I motion to table.
I'll second the motion table.
Okay, we have a motion to table that. 18.4 from Seth Steeman. And a second from Chong Yang. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Wait to table. Okay, moving on to new business. Approve and adopt the 2025-26 proposed budget. Jennifer Pasalia.
Hi, thank you. At the last board meeting on June 10th, I did the presentation for the proposed 25-26 budget, and I'm asking for approval from the board tonight to adopt the 25-26 budget.
I would like to just request to fulfill OE3's request, right? This is part of this budget since about the study session of the budgets and looking at the past budget and this budget, if we can consider doing a study session.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions for Jennifer? Then can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Frank Crawford. Motion to approve and a second. Chong Yang. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Congratulations, Jennifer. Good job.
Okay. 19.2, approve the resolution of the 2024-25/29 for the MJUSD Education Protection Account. Again, Jennifer Paselli, I have the floor.
Hi, thank you. This is required as a mandate, state mandate, that we have a board resolution. The Education Protection Act is Proposition 30. It's to bring in more taxes for instructional purposes only, and so this resolution is approving that we will just use those funds for instructional purposes, and it is part of the local control funding formula.
Any questions for the board?
MJUSD.
Any questions for Jennifer from the board? Then can I get a motion to approve this item?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved from Frank Crawford. And a second. Second from Seth Steeman. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 19.3, approve the resolution for the 2024-25/30 for the Marysville Charter Academy of the Arts, MCAA Education Protection Account. Again, Jennifer, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is, just like I said before, for the District Education Protection Act. This is for the Marysville Charter of the Arts. They have their own LCFF, local control funding formula, and so a resolution also needs to be approved and state that we will use those funds for instructional purposes.
Any additional questions from the board for Jennifer? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Crawford. Second from Mr. Oliver Taylor. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Our next regular scheduled meeting. Oh, closed session. Okay, so we are actually going to go back into closed session. And I'm not sure when we're going to return. And we will return when we're done. Thank you.
Yuba-Sutter.LIVE's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties.
Yuba-Sutter.LIVE. It's the truth that comes through. Yuba-Sutter.LIVE. It's the truth that comes through.